Today we're going to analyze some gameplay from Heavy to see how he utilizes Caustic's abilities to handle 1vx engagements and also to control space. Starting off, Petty climbs up on top of the building, gets some opening shots, but just barely misses the one clip on the Revenant. He tries to knock him by using his ultimate, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work out. Either way, right now he needs to try creating space because he is extremely low, but this is the beautiful thing about playing Caustic, as his barrels slow, do damage, and can be very disorienting, which all I hope to make it easier for him to create that space so that he can heal up. In fact, it would allow him to create so much space that he could get off a heinous hit without getting hit by the Bloodhound scan. The reason that this is so important to know is that the Caustic is a big boy, so you have to be careful when it comes to your close to mid-range engagements. Yes, he does take reduced damage, but he's also far easier to hit than most other legends, so being able to keep your distance, create space, and spoil enemies is really important for you to abuse, especially in 1vx situations, which generally that's what you should be doing most of the time anyway in 1vx situations, but with Caustic it's even more important because he's such a big boy. In fact, in the next part of the engagement, you can see how cautious he approaches the fight and how he tries to maintain that distance. This entire team is around the corner, so he puts down a few barrels to help maintain the space between him and them. You can tell he was hoping that they were going to push up and would get caught up in his first barrel, but they don't. Instead, they sit back and destroy it, which is one of the reasons why it can actually be extremely beneficial to shoot your own barrels to activate them after deploying them. They can still be destroyed, but it is much more difficult to do so, and you also get the benefit of denying that area for a longer duration rather than just relying on them being halted by the physical barrels present, then stopping to shoot it. If you just activate it, they won't have to do 150 damage to it, which will eat their magazine and can even serve as a distraction for you to shoot them while they shoot and reload. But even after the barrel is destroyed, the gas will linger for just a moment, so if you need to occupy space or halt an enemy, it can be very effective for you to throw down a barrel and shooting at it to activate it before they can even destroy it. Although because he did it, the Pathlighter pushes up into the open and gets beamed. As I always say, don't ever just push in the open when you don't have to, because this is exactly what happens. The Path didn't even have time to react because he got down so quickly. Even as a movement legend who can get out of sticky situations quickly, if you just stand in the open, you're probably going to get murked. Let's be real. So as I always say, please don't stand in the open or wide swing like this. I am begging you. Unless you have a good reason to wide swing, just don't. You should always try hugging walls or cover and abuse them as much as possible. Now, if you do want to see a reason for you to wide swing, we can take a look here where after knocking the Path, Petty's door gets destroyed from the enemies throwing grenades. Heavy pushes out a bit to challenge this Caustic, but notice how he's still hugging the wall and staying close to cover while the other Caustic is just out in the open. Heavy basically takes no damage while the Caustic gets extremely low, which, by the way, Heavy standing in the gas emitting from his barrel probably coped a lot with this, and you should always try to remember that Caustic's gas can be extremely effective at obscuring vision, much like Bangalore smoke. But now Heavy has a choice to make. There are grenades behind him that are about to go off, so he has two options: jump back into the building or wide swing and knock his Caustic. As long as he can hit his shots, you can pretty much guarantee a knock on him. However, the problem is that the Loba is still there. But if you were paying attention, you might have noticed that right before the two Caustics engage each other, you can hear the Loba start to stick the Pathfinder. This is likely the reason he decided to wide swing and go for the knock, as the Loba was just coming out of the stick, so it is unlikely that she would hit her shots. So wide swinging here provided him with the benefit of dodging the grenades while also allowing him to get a knock with very little damage taken in return. If he had just gone back inside, it is likely the situation would have remained a 1v3 rather than keeping it into a 1v2. Not to mention, if you look at how he did the wide swing, he actually swung right behind the pole, which helped him to block some of the incoming fire. He then immediately pulls back closer to the building where he's able to have more control over the fight using the available cover. This shows one scenario where a wide swing can be very beneficial, but it is important that you note you don't want to be throwing away 1,000 advantages just to push. In this case, wide swing gave him advantages such as being able to dodge the grenades, still had a little bit of cover, he's able to get the knock and keep the situation in more control, and is able to get out of the wide swing quickly as well. So I think there's a lot that you have to weigh. Majority of the time, it's not going to be worth it, but there are some cases where it can really pay off, just depending on the amount of advantages that is going to give you. It's always a trade-off. You're always going to be throwing away some advantage in order to do that wide swing, so you gotta make sure that wide swing is worth it. But this also shows why cover is so effective, and even if you do wide swing, doing your best to make it extremely brief and also swinging to another piece of cover, even if it's super tiny, it can make a huge difference. Now, while he's challenging Loba, he throws down his Veil and hopes to tag her with it and also to occupy space. If she got hit with it, it would slow her, making it easier to hit his shot, and it also would have probably killed her. It honestly may have been worth it to just tag the barrel while shooting at her once he realized that she wasn't going to attempt to destroy it. It's possible that it would tag her, it would give him more cover, and it would have made more space for him to play with while also limiting their space. He could simply quickly tag it during the spray, then go back to firing the Loba without ever letting go of the fire button. Then once he is on empty, switch to the PK for the finish. I think this is one of the things that really does separate insanely good Caustic mains from the rest, is how they use their barrels and whether or not they abuse the fact that they can activate it themselves. Nothing against Heavy, because obviously they are cracked at the game and understand how to use Caustic's abilities very well, but it's important to know how much of a difference activating your own barrels can make in many situations. In the end, when it comes to Caustic, it's really important that you understand space and that you know how to use your abilities to control, create, take space so that you can have more success as a Caustic player. Hope you learned something new in today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in a minute.